Welcome everyone to Real Estate with Gwen Price, and this is our monthly market update. And with me is Trina Tallon, a mortgage specialist with Neighbourhood Dominion Lending. Sorry, ladies. And also Lana Watier, my broker of record with Keystone Real Estate. Friday morning. You're ready for the weekend? Not that it matters for us. We probably all work all weekend anyway, right?
Yeah.
Well, things have continued to be as crazy as they were last month and the month before, and it doesn't show too many signs of slowing down. I know some people are thinking everything's gonna bottom out and it's all gonna stop. I'm not so sure.
It will stop at some point. I can't see the market continuing in this trend for forever. Like this is quite the anomaly. So I'm anticipating that, reasonably it will stop at some point. Trina, you mentioned that Bank of Canada is looking at adjusting the benchmark rate that will, hopefully or potentially change some people's buying power and strategies and things like that. So that may help stop the market a little bit or slow it down a little bit, but there is a lot of stuff going on out there in this crazy market.
Yeah. Like again, when I look at the stats, excuse me, since the end of 2019 to the end of March this year, we're up about 23 to 25%. And just this year alone, 10% is since the end of 2020. So yeah, we've had some interesting situations. And when we look at the sale to list ratio, it's running for the whole of the real estate board at 105%. So that means the majority of offers are going over list price. And when I look at Walden, for instance, it was 109%, Minnow Lake 108%. And last year, if almost every year in the past, you could say 97 to 98% of what something was listed at is what it would sell for. That was the average. But now it's changed this year in particular. And you're right, doesn't seem, there's still, our average sale price is hovering around the 370, 375. So that's still anything either side of that is what's so crazy. Like I was telling you, listings in the 200s, like it's not just first time buyers, it's investors. And those investors can be from Sudbury or they can be from out of town because they're looking at it dollars and cents. Prices for them sound low, but our rents can be high here.
Well, yeah, there are a lot of people coming from out of town. Buyers and agents, and our market is definitely hot. But one of the things that we talked about briefly, and I wanted to bring up, Gwen had mentioned as well, is most people, because of this hot market, there's a lot of activity and there's a lot of things that are happening that people should be aware of. If you've received something like this in your mail, this is a handwritten, looks like a handwritten postcard. Basically asking people if you're interested in selling your house. We're not realtors, blah, blah, blah. In my experience, these type of things are, particularly in this market, are unwise. Don't call these guys. They're wholesalers, they're flippers. Their intent is to lowball you to get your house so that it doesn't sell in competition. Because like Gwen said, everything, 90% of the things that are listed these days are selling in multiple offers competition. So why would you reach out to some joker who printed this up at Staples to try to take advantage? And I think, Gwen, you had mentioned the concern that a lot of seniors are falling for this type of marketing, and they're inexperienced. They've lived in their homes for 50, 60 years. They're afraid that they're going to have to do X amount of dollars worth of work in order to sell their properties. And they think that this is the way to go. Please don't think that. Please just talk to a realtor, talk to your lawyer, talk to somebody that's in the industry, talk to your mortgage professional, talk to your bank. These guys here are not the way to go. These things never work out, in my opinion, to the benefit of the seller. So please talk to somebody about these, and these are everywhere. I found
Yep.
this posted at my post office in Lively.
Yep. Oh,
They're papering the city with these kind of
Yep.
things, and they're not wise. They're not something that I would ever recommend. You don't have this with the realtor, but you need to get somebody else's advice before even considering calling these types of things.
Well, and again, it's always the vulnerable that get targeted with these things, and nothing makes me angry, because I always think about my father. You know, if my father was still alive and somebody knocked on his door, he would believe what they're saying to him, because that generation believed, they didn't think people would do things like that. Yeah. And I don't begrudge anybody trying to sell privately, but there's a reason why realtors are still in existence, and definitely call your lawyer before you ever sign anything with one of those guys.
Absolutely. Call somebody. Call somebody. Call your lawyer, call your bank, call your realtor friend. Everybody's got a friend that's a realtor. Call somebody just for their opinion, because these types of things, don't shortchange yourself, and don't get yourself into a jackpot that you're not going to be able to get out of.
Yeah.
Well, everyone needs to be careful, right? Because with the good always happens to come the bad, and a few bad apples always spoil it for the bunch. That's what I tell people all the time. And you know, quite often I'll hear, wow, that's a lot of documents needed for a mortgage now. And it's true. And it's because of people who commit fraud, or who try and take advantage of the system, or they make it bad for the people who don't, and who are legitimate and who are trustworthy. But that's just human nature, and it's been the way that it always is. And now with our market being so hot, and Gwen, you mentioned that the average sale price is $370.
Yeah, roughly around that. Yeah.
So that's half of what Kitchener-Waterloo is.
Yeah. Even what's the average sale price across Canada? Is it around? It's 500 and something, or 6 or something like that. So when you think of that, like right across Canada.
Yeah. So, and they have to, even with their housing prices being at that, like first time home buyer house in that area is like 550 to 600,000. They have been dealing with people who have been trying to scam the system for a long time. Yeah. And I have clients who bought in New Brunswick, and I was talking to people there, and they're dealing with the same sort of situation that we're dealing with in Sudbury right now, because their market price, their housing prices there, for the majority of it, like a client just bought a sixplex for $265,000, and it's I'm like, well, what? But it's amazing.
Yeah. Wow.
After talking to so many people there, to, you know, appraisers and real estate agents and banks and things like that, it's becoming a super hot market. And what's having to happen is they have to put extra due diligence in place to make sure that people are not coming in and that they can't support the real estate that they're buying. So the local banks there, and the banks, even the major banks across Canada, are asking for more due diligence, more documentation, more fallback. So what's happening right now, this is an example for us, is that quite a few lenders, if you own a rental property, or you want to buy a rental property, or you want to refinance a rental property, quite a few of them want to see 6 months of rental fallback in a liquid account.
Oh,
that's a lot.
Okay. Yeah.
So when you have clients with portfolios at like $68,000 to $100,000 worth of rents coming in a month, that's a lot of money to see sitting, or a year, sorry. That's a lot of money to see sitting in a bank account.
Wow.
Yeah. So things are tightening up. So the good thing is that for sellers, housing prices are going up, and they're making quite a bit more money than they would have like even a year ago. But at the same time, we're also going to have to deal with people who put out pieces of paper like that, the government tightening up because they don't want the country to fall apart.
Yeah.
Basically. And that goes back to, you know, what they're proposing with increasing the qualifying rate, the benchmark rate. Interestingly enough, they're looking at increasing it only for properties that, or for purchasers who are doing typically 20% down or more. That's a whole other conversation, and this is going to be another conversation I'm going to have with people. It's basically uninsurable files. So people who don't necessarily, who will not fall under like the CMHC guidelines, who are putting more than 20% down, they are going to have to be at a higher benchmark rate qualifying. And it's a big difference. Like they're looking at, instead of 4.79, like 5.25 to 5.5. So it does make a difference. But again, it's to protect us, our economy, because those mortgages are not insured. So they want to put more of a buffer in there for the stress test. We'll see what happens. It's just a proposal at this point, but they're having to come up with unique ways to cool what's going on.
Well, and the government's also been talking about doing away with the tax exemption for primary residents. That's been in conversation for a long time as well. So, you only get, your tax on capital gains or whatever is typically for your secondary residences and income properties and what like that. And your primary residence where you live, if you go to sell it, you don't pay that extra tax. So, they are back in talks about changing that as well. And that will put a serious crimp in a lot of people's resale plans and take money out of their pocket.
Exactly.
Right?
So if they're not selling, Lana, they need to call me to refinance.
Yes.
Take their money out and go and invest it somewhere. Put in your FSAs, put in your RSPs.
Yeah. Absolutely. So
that'll be interesting if that happens.
I don't know if that, again, that's something that's been in that's been thrown around for the last several years. But I think now with the way the market is now, it's so hot across the country. We're not the only ones.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. Like there was a house down, we went for $1 million over asking. And I think that was on the East Coast or I can't
I remember seeing it too. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Obviously that's part of the marketing, right? A lot of agents underlist so that they get that big reaction and people will pay more. Obviously that is the marketing strategy that some people use, but it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's not just us. So.
No, even into the States, because I'm on a few different things on Facebook groups, and same thing. They're talking everything that we're talking about. They're talking about there. Only they got a little different way of handling some of their real estate transactions. But I mean, it's still, they have a shortage of listings right across. It seems like there's an exodus a bit out of like California into some other areas, but still like a shortage of listings in a lot of the states too. So Trina, you wanted to talk about down payment too.
Yeah, I really should make notes and send you a bit of an agenda before I get on, because once I start talking, there's two things I want to kind of hit on. Down payment, just a reminder that it's governed by anti-money laundering legislation. It has nothing to do with the banks. Yeah. If you're going to buy a house, stop moving your money around. Just leave it in one place. For the amount of work that will have to be done for you to move it from a regular savings account to a TFSA account for 2 or 3 weeks and then back again, because it's got to come back. And now I need documentation for all of that movement. And that's not me, that's not the lender, that's the government.
Yeah.
Because of money laundering. And they're very, very picky about where money comes from. And I have to track every penny of it. Second thing, when you put a deposit down on a house, it's really not a good idea to pull it from your unsecured line of credit to do the deposit. Most lenders will not accept that as a form of down payment when it's coming from unsecured. You're going to cause yourself more grief. Just make sure that you have the money already in your bank account if it's coming from investments to cover your deposit that's going to happen if you want to use it towards your down payment. That's one thing. Appraisals. This is Canada-wide. Appraisers are going to need PTSD therapy after they get this.
Yeah.
It is more and more, it's taking anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to get an appraisal done now.
Wow.
Well, I guess
Wow.
along with the market, like the sales, people are still refinancing, you know what I mean? That's a big chunk of most appraisers'
Yeah.
market is refis, right? So
It's a combination of three things I'm finding right now. It's real estate agents who write offers that use the words as is.
Oh, yeah. Mm.
Boom. You're probably gonna need an appraisal done.
I always cringe or laugh kind of when I see that, because realistically, every house is sold as is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what you're
Yeah.
signing
Every
a
single house
contract.
is sold as is. There's no reason to
Yeah.
put those words in the offer, because every single house is sold as is. What you do after the home inspection or whatever is totally aside from the actual negotiation of the offer. So
That's a major flag.
yeah,
Yeah.
leave that out. That's not necessary. I know
Yeah.
some lawyers have even said, you know, they want that in there. That's detrimental to the deal. That's detrimental to any deal. Every
Mhm.
house is sold as is.
The second big thing is because of the fact that these properties, quite a few properties are going for much higher than what their listing value was, they want appraisals done. And with COVID, I've had every client says to me, "Oh, Trina, I should be getting my appraisal done in no time at all because they're not going in." Well, it's actually taking most appraisers double the time because they have to let the clients know what pictures need to be taken inside, give them a list of them. And I'm telling you from experience, half of the clients don't take the photos properly, leave photos out because they don't think that the appraiser actually needs them.
Yeah.
And then the appraiser has to go back and get them to retake photos. And so it's causing a lot more work for an appraiser not to actually go into a building or into a property because
Well,
people
that's
don't
the
want to.
appraiser's choice though, whether they want to go in or not.
Yes.
So, you know, if they want to save themselves the aggravation and hassle, do what realtors do, follow the COVID guidelines, wear a mask, wear gloves if you need to. You know, so I kind of got no sympathy for appraisers on that point. If you're not going to, you know, do what's required and expect somebody else to do it for you, you got to expect those kind of shortfalls.
Yes. With what's been going on though, a lot of people don't want the appraisers in their houses. I've been coming up against that lately where I have appraisers that are happy to go in and like you said, Lana, follow the protocol, and then people are saying, no, I don't want them in here.
That must be for
Makes no sense.
refinance.
Just
Yeah.
had 50 people through with, you know, when
Yeah.
showings happen, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, because I could see maybe refinance, but when you've just shown your house, like you said, Lana, to hundreds of people, that there's the reason why you're saying no, you don't want the appraiser in there.
This is the goal line. Don't fumble the ball now. You're right at the
Exactly.
goal line.
Let them do their job.
Well, and I mean, now we're back into a lockdown or stay at home or whatever. And a lot of my clients have said, well, what happens now? Can I still buy a house? I said, yes, like we still have to, we're considered essential. People still have to buy, they still have to sell, and we have to do it safely and, you know, go through with things and protect ourselves and our clients as well as the sellers for sure.
Yes.
So it's, I get it, but I didn't realize it was taking that long for appraisals. So that really complicates things if it's involving not a refi, but a deal. Like
appraisals are waking me up in the middle of the night. Like
well, that's not good, Lana.
to have concern about getting them done. And I from a personal point of view, I would like everyone to breathe. We're in a lockdown, we're in a pandemic, everything is taking longer. You know, I've been saying this for a year. Everything takes longer right now.
It does.
Yeah, and it really does. And I laugh because we are in our industry, we're in such a rush industry. And I just sit there and go, okay, let's, you know, it takes longer to get a letter of employment. It takes longer to get an appraiser in. A lot of lawyers are being forced to work from home and their assistants are working from home. And, you know, so it's just would like be awesome just to be kinder to one another.
Well, and it's in a way, it's because I guess maybe because we're all out and about as realtors or our clients, and it's almost like things are the way they used to be, and you forget for a moment we're still in a pandemic. And you're right, you can now we can't do a lot of things. We can't go into a store and buy whatever we want. So things are even more complicated right at this moment in time. And and we were anticipating more listings coming on the market. There was going to be more choice, and we're still faced with this situation where there's still a shortage in particular some areas, some prices. So it's not going to change anytime soon, I don't think.
And on the lending side of things, there's a lot of things that the lenders and the regulators are kind of flying by the seat of their pants right now, trying to adjust to what's going on. Like, I ordered an ACI appraisal to be done in New Brunswick, and the appraiser said, yeah, I don't go to site. I said, what? She says, I haven't been to a site in a year. And I'm like, well, you at least have to do a drive-by, don't you? And she said, no, I haven't. So I had to get back in touch with the bank and say, are you going to allow this to happen? Like, can we do this? And it took a day to get, it took a day to get an answer back from an underwriter as to whether or not they were going to allow this appraisal to happen without a site inspection actually happening. So that's what I mean about things are taking time, and because we keep having all these different people's interpretations of rules and what we can do and what we can't do. And like I said, getting paperwork, it's taking time.
Yeah.
But we're getting there. We'll get through it.
We are. Yeah. I know a lot of people think realtors are creating all this situation of inflated prices, but in fact, our buyers are, I think COVID, again, we talked about this before, I think COVID has changed people's way of looking at the world and their particular world, and they want something tangible and they're willing to pay for it. And I can't tell my client how high should you go over the list price. I don't know. How much do you want this? And so I mean, it's a tricky situation, and we're not getting out of it anytime soon. And we just go through it, right?
Yeah. So everyone just breathe.
Yes, I have to remind myself, especially when you're working like nonstop some days, and as I always say to my husband and son, just make me one good meal a day and I can go. Eh? But, anyway, some days you run out of steam.
Yeah. Well, at least the weather is nice these days. So that's a plus. You can actually go outside, get some sun,
for
feel some warmth. And
well, that's great. Well, enjoy the weekend, ladies, whether you're working or not. And I think we're projecting some rain in the forecast. I don't know.
That's okay. We need the rain.
We need to wash things up and clean them. And anyway, well, thank you so much. And we'll talk to you again next month.
Yes.
Take care.
Enjoy. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.